What I'm given in the first problem is my initial velocity, and I'm given my initial height. So I can put 64 in here, I can put 6 in here. If I rewrite that equation, I get h of t is equal to negative 16t squared plus 64t plus 6. Now I can use this to find the vertex of this function, because that's going to be the maximum height, because this thing opens down. So this graph is going to look something like this, and this is the point that I need to be looking for. So I'm going to find the vertex by doing negative b over 2a, which would be negative 64 over 2 times negative 16, which is negative 64 over negative 32, which is positive 2. So my x value, or my t value, because that's what my variable is, my t value of the vertex is 2. What I need to do is I need to take this and put it back in these two places to figure out what the height is. So I know that my t is 2, so I'm going to rewrite. Okay, 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 16 is negative 64. Yep, okay. 2 times 64 is 128. Plus 6. And so negative 64 plus 128 is 64, plus 6 is 70. So my point is 270. So I can cross off this option and I can cross off this option. My answer is going to be A, it's the first option, because 2 is a t value, or a time value, and 70 is the height at that time. Okay, the next one I'm going to put in the data. I'm not going to make you watch that, but I'm going to show you how I get there. So I'm going to do stat, and then enter to enter data. I have data in there, so I'm going to go up to where it says L1 and hit the clear button and scroll back down. Then I can enter the data. I'll pause the video to do that so that you don't have to watch that. Okay, so now my data is in my calculator. I can go stat, scroll over to calculate, and scroll down to quad reg, option number 5. Scroll down to store reg EQ, you can hit vars, then you can scroll over to yvars, hit enter twice, and then that's going to store your function in y1. Scroll down to calculate and hit enter, and there's what we get for A, B, and C, so I just have to match the one that's right. So A is negative 0.412, B is 12.793, C is negative 19.396. Be careful about how you're rounding, because I tried to throw you off and tried to make sure that you were paying attention here. So make sure that you're checking for rounding correctly. Your answer is B. Okay. So then we're going to use that model to predict the temperature at midnight. X is 24. So I'm going to do this in my calculator. So I'm going to scroll up to plot 1 and turn that on to make sure the data shows up. Sorry, you maybe can't see that very well. Make sure your Y equals button, when you press this button, looks like this screen. Make sure that Y plot 1 is on. Then we're going to do zoom 9 to get it to fit the data. Okay. Then we're going to look at the window and just see what it gave for us. Notice that our X maximum is 22, and since we're asking about 24, this calculator is going to give us an error unless we change that to something bigger. So let's change it to like 25. Let's also make our Y minimum a little bit lower, like maybe 40. Let's go even a little bit lower. Let's just say 0. Okay, now I'm going to hit graph again. And that allowed us to see more of the data down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do second trace to get to the calculate menu. Then I'm going to use the value function. That gives you the ability to put in an x value, and the x value we're going to use is 24. My answer is 50.128. The closest value is definitely this one. The prediction question is just sort of up to you. I want you to answer that yourself. I think that this prediction makes some sense because I know that the overnight temperatures right around now are about 50 degrees. But the model might be starting to decrease too much at the end. So we might be saying, this doesn't really work that well at the end of the day. Last question, what about the quadreg? Okay, does the quadreg match the data really well? I would say yes, because it goes through the data really clearly. The model will accurately predict the temperature for the next day at noon. So I'm going to show what that would look like. So x is 36 is the question that I'm asking, and I'm going to go to 37 just to show what it would look like at the very end of the graph. And so the question is, what does it look like? What is the value for a spot where the x value is right here? Well, my function is going to be all the way down here, and since I changed my y minimum to 0, on the graph, this line right here, this bottom line right here is 0. So that means that this is going all the way below 0, and I think that that's unlikely that that would be accurate. This quadratic function opens down. Yes, that's true because the vertex is above the rest of the graph. And I would say that the quadreg does, yes, it does seem like it works for this problem. So I would say that this is not something to check.